Hi, everyone. Deborah Hamilton, Hamilton Law and Mediation, the MAAP Community Call, and Why Do Pets Matter? Well, last night I held a phenomenal 1 hour call with so many fabulous people. The only problem is I forgot to record the first 30 minutes. So here is the last 30 minutes that were just as great as the first 30 minutes. I'm hoping that you'll join us for the next live Why Do Pets Matter podcast and live MAP community call, which of course happens every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, please do me a favor. Check out the workshop that I'm putting together. It's February 20th and 27th from 12 noon Eastern Time until 2 p.m. I have so many people who are from the West Coast Pacific Time. So I want to make sure I accommodate everyone to join us to actually make a MAP plan. Get it done. It's the beginning of the year. Your pets are counting on you. So please join me. It's going to be a wonderful program. I put the link here as well, but if you don't want to wait for the link, go to www.hamiltonlawandmediation.com. That's www.hamiltonlawandmediation.com. I'm so glad we had such a great conversation last night on the MAP community call, and I look forward to more MAP community calls going forward Wednesday nights at 6:30. So let's listen in.
Sometimes either your local or your national parent breed club rescue, some have them and some do not, will have foster capabilities. So that is an option for those of your clients who have purebred dogs. Find out from either the local or the national club if they do foster. Now, some like GRCA, my sister is a member of GRCA and very active.
Golden Retriever Club of America, just in case you didn't know the logo, sorry.
Yeah, Golden Retriever Club of America, sorry. At any rate, GRCA does not have a national rescue. They have referral services, but most local clubs have rescue arms or referral services. So
yeah, they do.
Those can be checked out by the breed. And if they have foster facilities, that's a good short to medium term option for like the lady that Deborah was just talking about who recovered from COVID.
She would have been so much better off had she put that in her plan, but she only put in her plan that if something happened to her, her dogs would be placed.
Right.
She didn't, flesh it out. And when I talk to my clients, I always flesh it out to say there is many options. Do you want to let the dog go if you get sick, or do you want to let the dog go in a foster situation to come back, or maybe even just visit? But you have to, as I said, you have to have those conversations, because it's key to having those conversations so that everybody understands what the next steps are.
I'm
Susan,
not sure if
did I check in with you? I apologize, Diane. Hold on a minute. Did I check in with you? How are you doing? Up, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I have a son with special needs, and this has raised some thoughts for me about my estate plan for him, and possibly putting something in there about keeping the dog with him. I'm not sure where, right now, I don't really know what would happen to him if I died.
It is really a great question. And I've worked with people with special needs children who have pets that are very important to them, but who couldn't necessarily care for them on their own. So what needs to be done is just a little bit of a brainstorm about who might be willing or able to possibly take the pet overnight or something like that, so that the pet comes back during the day or it visits, because it is key that the pet is safe, but also that your son still maintains that relationship. So I'm happy to chat with you at any time if you want about that, because it really is a unique situation that you really want to be thoughtful about.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad that we've had this conversation, because it's something that didn't really register in my brain until just now, or?
Well, if you ask Sally and Connie, they have things registering their brains every week that they come because I talk of something new every week. So Diana, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, that was
Been
important.
educational for you guys.
I was jumping in because with all the mention of fostering, at North Shore Animal League America, there's a really broad contingency of volunteers, many of whom are very compassionate and skilled at fostering, and they're generally for those animals that need that TLC, that medical care before and socialization before adoption. But this issue of COVID has gotten us prepared for that as well. So we made sure that there's extra room at the shelter should we have to receive animals. It hasn't come to that in our community, but it's just this conversation is just really sparking in my mind to have some other conversations back at the office about fostering and that message that while people are ill. But Debbie, you might, because there seems to be with breed specific versus mixed breeds. We had an amazing story with the Dalmatians that got adopted, the pair. Debbie, do you know the details there?
I don't. Tell us about it.
You mean the when the owner had passed away?
Yes.
Yeah, and we went up and took those in, and I actually work with thankfully, I work with all the Safe Haven donors. Thankfully, only a few times a year. But I had a woman that was very prepared. She had terminal cancer and she had 8 cats recently. It was about 6 months ago. And, I talked to her numerous times. And what was great is she lined up her cat sitter because she was in Pennsylvania. And I did say to her, I said, we may not be able to get to Pennsylvania right away. We have a transportation service. We can sometimes go out if we're going to be in the area. I mean, we have people nationally in this program. So sometimes we can pick them up. Other times we'll meet somebody, that type of thing. But I said, it's not right away. So she actually used her cat sitter, who was wonderful because she really knew the animals too. So she was able to, even though we had some information on file about the cats, she was able to share even a little more. You know what I mean? She was there with them. She saw also kind of what they were going through at that point because the woman had been sick for a while. And, we were able to get them all in and most of them have been placed. And you're exactly right that a lot of times, sometimes we'll work with them and say, okay, these two look really bonded. This one can go by itself. This one needs a little extra special TLC.
Yeah, you really have to talk about that.
Yeah. Now I have a question for you. One thing that I work with some donors who it's very sad, but they tell me they have nobody.
Yeah, nobody.
And they want to know, and I've had some serious conversations about people that, if they get picked up by an ambulance, nobody's going to know. So I've been looking at like ARP and websites like that to see, is there some technology out there that could help with this? Now, it can't just necessarily be the button because they might not be able to press the life alert button. So what kind of technology might be able to then alert the caregiver to say, or alert us and say, this animal is home alone?
Well, there isn't anything that I've found yet that's foolproof because the people who respond, the EMTs, have to know what it is. So if they have something that's technologically advanced, like an app on their phone or something around their neck, the EMS or police or whomever respond to where the dog or cat are have to know what it is. And if they don't know what it is, well, then they just take the cat or dog. That's why I do the old school Post-it note on the fridge or note in the window. I even go so far as to say, if you're driving in a car, you should have a note that says, I have dogs or cats home alone, and this is who you call to go get them. Because if you have a car accident and you're taken away and you live alone, there's nobody. I did a video earlier this week about Lone Star 911 because at the end of the show, I was jumping up and down, yelling at my husband going, see, I told you. Someone was probably watching my MAAP program and had a moment where this EMT passed away due to the lava flow and the throwing of lava something, and he died. Unfortunate and very sad. But at the end, his partner said, yeah, but what's going to happen with Ozzy? And the captain of the EMT said, who's Ozzy? And he goes, his cat. And at the last clip of the show, Debbie, you'll appreciate this, and Diana, you'll appreciate this. She comes in with a cat carrier, and the cat she took home. The captain went to his apartment, got the cat, put it in the carrier, brought it home. Now, that's the perfect world, and all of us on this call want somebody there who's going to do that for us. However, not necessarily so, as we had the front page, or maybe page 2 of the post with the people swathed in PPE going in, scaring the bejesus out of the dogs and cats whose owners had been at the hospital. So for me, I'm always big on, and you're right, that there isn't any technology that's foolproof, because they have to know about it. So the people who are responding to the sick person, especially if they live alone, have to know about it. If they live with someone, like I live with my husband, and many people here might be living with their spouses, then those people know, who to call to take care of the pets. They should, because they're going to want to go to the hospital with the sick person. At least my husband would, I think, maybe not, depending if it's football. If it's Super Bowl, if I get sick on the Super Bowl, I'm on my own. However, you just really want to make sure that there's somebody there to take care of the cats. And Debbie, that was perfect that there was a cat sitter. And you're absolutely right. I speak a lot at the Atria, and what's the other one with a B, where they have independent living, where they all have those 20-pound animals, right? And they come in with one name. And I talk to management all the time, and some of them are good and some of them not so much. Never check to see if, Debbie Hibbard is still alive. She was on my list, but she might have, God forbid, predeceased me, and she's the only one on the list. And I say to them all the time, you should really update that every year. I'm just saying. And they go, oh no, we don't think there's a problem. And there's never a problem until somebody gets taken away in an ambulance. And then, it becomes a problem. And I have to say that when I go to those places, and I'm sure, Tracy, if you've had this experience, their family doesn't want the dog. They don't want the dog. So it's difficult to force a family member to have a dog. All of us know people who took their great aunt's cat or their great uncle's dog, or maybe even their horse, so that it wouldn't go to a horrible place. But it was under duress. And some people don't ever really, I had someone who had a cat in a room for the rest of its life, and it never was in a room, its life. Now, it was well cared for. It had a litter box. The room was big. It had climbing units and stuff. But, maybe had they taken a little bit of time to figure out, who would be able to take it, this was the best person to take it, or there could have been someone else. But you really have to appreciate where they're coming from, because yes, nobody wants their animal in their family. Nobody. I hate when they say that, but it usually is true. And it's really good and honest for people to do that, to say, Diana, I can't take your cat. Mom, I don't want to take your cat. Dad, I don't want to take your cat. Just not going to fit into my lifestyle. It's better that they say that than to take it, because the first case I had 10 years ago was a family who wanted me to mediate a disagreement because somebody had gone to a rescue and adopted a dog that was dropped off. Excuse me, it wasn't a rescue. It was a shelter, and it was an 11-year-old poodle. And it, had not such good teeth, as we know, and was a little dirty. Okay, fine. Long nails. Okay, fine. They cleaned it up. They put a bow around its neck, and it went home with the Smiths later on that afternoon or the next day. And when the will was read 6 months later, the attorney had the presence of mind to say, you better go to that shelter and see where to get a little certificate that says that the dog is dead. And of course, it wasn't. So Mr. and Mrs. Smith got a windfall of $5,000, and the family said, well, they didn't take the dog in anticipation of getting this windfall. And I said, yes, but they took the dog, and your mother was smart enough to write in her will to the person who's taking care of Fluffy. So that would be the Smiths. So I know that's not a nice note to leave on, but you really do need to make a plan. Anybody else have questions? Because I love when people, yes, Tracy, unmute.
Okay, so I actually have a question. To Debbie. So I'm just a trainer. We don't board, but all of our clients get tags, and they say find my owner or call my trainer, and they have our phone number on there. And so every one of our clients gets one of these, and we recommend they just leave them on there. Just
Right.
Just
that
in
is
case.
wonderful. That is wonderful.
Yeah.
And what you need to do then is to be their trusted partner to know who their 3 people are who would get the dog if something happened to them. You just have to add to that number or that gift. This is in case of an emergency. And I can hold it like the cat sitter held the cats, but I might not be able to keep it. And I need to know what your plans are for moving it forward. If you want me to hold it for 6 months while you recover, then I have to find a foster maybe. So you have to have that conversation. It's a very hard conversation to have often, but you have to have that conversation.
Yeah, so let me ask that. So we right now I have 6 clients who I know have asked permission, and I have gifted it and given my verbal qualifiers. And I myself, in our existing wills, have 3 people, so I feel like we're pretty good in that chain. But my question is, what are the chances somebody would leave me a dog without my knowledge and without any finances to take care of them?
Well, pretty good if they haven't taken the MAP program, because I tell everybody they have to publish it and they have to tell the people. But a lot of people do put someone's name in without telling them. Then you're not by law obligated if you haven't. But a good attorney would call you, because they have to leave the contact information with you. So a good attorney will call you. And if you have your plans for your pets in your will, as I said before, and I know this is flippant, just make sure you die, because all those plans do not come into fruition unless you're dead. So if you have, I call it the 6Ds. So if you get divorced, that's something you need to plan for. If you get delayed, something you need to plan for. If you're disabled, like I was with my broken ankle, something you have to plan for. If you have a disease, cancer, COVID, you have to pay, you have to plan for that. Dementia, you have to plan for that, right? I always say, I would love to give so many shelter dogs to older people so that they had a reason to get up in the morning. However, you would have to also help them figure out how to care for that pet if something happened to them, or if they weren't able to, because there's always, as Susan said, with her son, there's always that, can they take care of it? And how do you do that? And there are cottage industries, as I'm sure Diana and Debbie have found in their travels. There are cottage industries that help older people care for their pets. They buy the food. They maybe walk the dog twice a day. They stop by all the time to make sure everybody's all right. Meals on Wheels always checks on the pets, and sometimes now brings pet food, because people were saving their Meals on Wheels food to feed to the dogs or cats. So these are industries that are there to help. We're there to help. You're there to help, Tracy, with your friends. I mean, if you are the person, the go-to person, and the dog is working in agility or obedience or training for 4 or 5 years, and then gets older, 6 or 8, 10, maybe they're not necessarily coming to train, although we do it all the time because we love the camaraderie. You really want to make sure that they have additional backup. As I said, I'm a broken record. Appoint caregivers. And to Debbie's point, if they don't have any caregivers, I often say to them, okay, so when you walk your dog, who do you meet? And they go, well, I meet Sally and I meet Connie, and they have a Wheaton and they have an Irish and they're friends. And I said, well, ask Sally and ask Connie, if something happened to you, would they be willing to short-term take your pet? Because most people don't even know. I remember one old guy out in California when I gave this talk at a big independent living facility in La Jolla. I'd love to live there. It's right on the ocean. And he said to me, well, I don't mind asking the person whose dog likes to play with my dog, but I don't want to take his dog. And I said, well, that's not always a quid pro quo. As I put the postcards in the mailboxes for COVID, I was hoping for a quid pro quo. And 15 people did, but 5 people didn't. But yet I would take care of their dogs as easily as I would take care of the 15 who said they take care of my dogs, because, paying it forward. So anybody else have a question? Yes.
Deborah, my question for you is, do you have a recommendation for the best way to set aside money for the care of your pets?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. I'm so glad you asked, because in the pet trust, there's 2 things you have to worry about. One is you have to worry about deciding with your trust and estate professional whether or not you make it revocable or irrevocable. The pet trust sits outside your will. So if you're not dead yet, that's the money that would be used to transport your pet from point A to point B. Okay. If someone is taking your pet to care for it long-term, short-term, getting the pet from point A to point B and buying it a bag of food or a bale of hay is what you need to set aside in the pet trust. I say that because if you die, the money you've set aside in your will, which if it's a young horse, then it's got to be a significant amount of money or not, depending on who's taking the horse. Now, I'll take your horse, knowing the expense it's going to run me. I'm so glad if you leave me $1,000 or $2,000 to transport the horse cross country to me, but I'm going to assume that cost. I mean, it's not a windfall because it'll either be the longest lived horse or the shortest lived horse. So you can't really understand which one it's going to be. So you should always pick the person who says, you know, I just want you to help me get them cross country. Just pay for helping me get them cross country. And then if you, the second part of that question was, Kate, I'm having a brain fart. I apologize.
Just, you know, what format does that money go in?
So it would go in your will. The larger amount would go in your will because if God forbid you die, you can leave. And even if the dog or cat isn't there anymore, you can leave money to them as a thank you. You know, when the pet dies, they get this money, right? So it's always tricky to leave the remainder of any amount of money to the person who's caring for your pet. As I said, it gets to be the longest lived or the shortest lived animal in the world. I always say to leave it to someplace like the North Shore Animal League or your health committee for your breed or your health committee for horses, something that's tangible, that's a 501c3, so you can just leave it to them and they can take good care of other animals with the remainder. The other piece you have to ask your trust and estate attorney about, but I got this on good authority from my elder law friend who does this all the time. She goes, Deborah, I love your MAP plan, but you don't make the pet trust irrevocable. And I said, well, why would I want to do that if the person doesn't have any pets and they're, you know, 70? They might want that $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 back. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, if they get sick and they have to go on Medicare, that money is going to be clawed back into their estate, and so it won't be there to care for the pets. Mm-hmm. So I'll say that again, that money, if it's not irrevocable in the pet trust, will be clawed back into your estate. So it will not take care of your pets. So I'm 62. My pet trusts are irrevocable. I only put about $4,000 in them. That's more than enough to transport the 2 dogs I have now to whomever it is who's going to care for them and buy a few bags of dog food. Sure. But they know they're assuming the vet care. They know they're assuming whatever other care that dog's going to get. You know, when you're picking your caregivers, don't pick them, you know, because you'll pay them. Right. Pick them because your dog knows them, your cat knows them, your horse knows them. They're good people. And as I said, you need 3. And I didn't use this word all night, Connie and Sally, redundancy. You need redundancy because if you don't have redundancy, you won't have checks and balances. So I would let Sally know that Connie is the next person to take the dog if she can't care for it. And then I'd say Kate's the next person. And then I'd say Tracy's the next person. Tracy, Kate, and Connie know that Sally's supposed to take care of the pets. And Sally knows Connie, Kate, and Tracy are checking on her so that if she's overwhelmed, they're more than happy to step in. This is not, you know, to lord people over, but you really need to make sure that people do what they say they're going to do. And the only way I have found that they do is if they collaborate, there's transparency, and they know if they're overwhelmed, they can call Kate and say, Kate, I just can't do this anymore. Can you take the dogs for a month? And Kate goes, no, I can't because it's, you know, we're renovating the house right now. But I know Tracy is home on vacation. I'll call her. And if she can't, I'll call Connie so that you always have that rolling thing. So Deb, to your question, it really is a matter of, I mean, North Shore Animal League is there, thank God, brick and mortar. It's, and for anyone who doesn't know, North Shore Animal League is on Long Island. It's been there for many, 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 many years. And it helps dogs and cats in need. It really provides an incredible service. You should look them up on the internet. It's the North Shore Animal League. But you really need to find people who are going to be redundant in the care. You really are. It's what they, when I did the logo for this plan, it says navigating the journey your pet takes when you can't care for them. And the second part of it is because they're counting on you. They are. They can't take care of themselves. They can't open doorknobs. They can't feed themselves. Well, some of them can. My young Irish setters can feed themselves very well from my garbage. So, you just really need to understand that, as breeders, Connie and I would say, from whelping box to end of life, we are there for them. And that's why we always put in our contracts, you must return our dogs. And that's why you have that transparent conversation to talk to a co-owner or a breeder about the neighbor who the dog knows and loves, so that you can allow that person to be still in the person's life. Because I would let someone who lives next door to one of my owners take the dog, as long as I had the same contract with them, that if something happened to them, the dog would come back to me. It's always about our pets. It's about our pets. So if you're out there looking, just make sure you ask people. And it's in the strangest places, Deb, that you find people who will take care of your pets. I always look to vet techs. I always look to groomers. I always look to kennels. I always look to neighbors, who have dogs, who know your dog. I know that on my walk, most of the people on my walk would take my dog in a minute, because she is such a delight. Of course, she is naughty. However, on the walks, she is just a delight. So I always go, yeah, okay, she is a wolf in sheep's clothing, just so you know. I think Sally might disagree with me, but she is a little bit of she's a handful, so to speak. And today, just as a light note, as I'm walking her, she's eating all the white snow, thank God, because we had snow here in New York, and she would just take these big mouthfuls of snow. She is 10 years old. I have never seen her eat snow before. I'm putting that on my list. She loves to eat snow. All of a sudden, it's a new thing, but they change all the time. We love them to bits, and they really are counting on us. So if anybody has any other questions, please talk now, because I've now kept you an extra half hour, and I'm so sorry.
That's great.
It's lovely to see you all. I hope you come back again. We're here every Wednesday night doing the Sidewalk Act, and we talk about new things, right, Sally and Connie? It's never boring. Take care,
Nice to meet
everyone.
you all. Thank you, Doug.
It's so good to meet everyone. See you again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.